Fixing America's economy. It's a big task. Bloomberg Businessweek scanned the world and found new ideas from Germany to Thailand. It is the cover story of this week's issue. It's on newsstands today. For more, we are joined right now by the editor, Josh Tyrangiel. He's joining me right here in the newsroom. Josh, always glad to see you. So I like the way this article starts. It's like something new for the U.S. Actually look outside of itself, right? So we can't be that egocentric all the time.
That's right. And also, look, we know that politically we're at this very odd, intractable moment, right? Republicans have staked out what they want. The Democrats have staked out what they want.
Nobody's moving.
Nobody's moving, and we can't even agree on something as fundamental as the debt ceiling. So we understand that. But at the same time, what we wanted to try and find is across the world, there are all sorts of countries that have looked at, in some cases, big policies, in some cases, small policies that have helped kickstart their economies.
Oh, it's great. We're not the only show in town, as it turns out.
There are innovative economists all over the world, and we want to adapt some of those ideas to the United States.
So I want to start with China. This isn't necessarily a straight play on how to fix the economy right now, but they have a 5-year plan. This year through 2015, $500 billion is going to be spent on green energy development, on environmentally friendly energy. So it's sort of one of these things, you might not see it show up in an economy right way, but 5 years down the line is pretty supportive.
Yeah, and look, in a way, we've done stimulus spending and a lot of infrastructure spending, but this is a very focused way to say we're going to own a green economy, we're going to own as many jobs as necessary to produce it. It's a huge capital investment, and that's a sort of...
China wants leadership as well. I mean, they've made it really clear we want to be the leading provider of green energy.
They want to own the industry. And so they're not just trying to create jobs, they're trying to create an industry that they can own. They've got the scale, they've got the cheap labor costs, and so they're saying we want to put this footprint down. Now, the United States can compete in that area, but it's just an example of one way to say, we're going to put a big chip down on the future economy. Right.
And it's, one thing that's interesting in the article says, look, the U.S. may spend that much, but it's actually going to be on medical charges, right? Medical innovation.
Yeah, and we all know, look, that our medical costs are one of the big problems that we have going forward, that, Medicare costs increase at a certain percentage every year, so we've got to find a way to get something else that's going to increase every year to at least offset some of that.
You found some good ideas in Germany, such as actually only buy a house you can afford.
The Germans are very, very cautious on their home ownership rates. When you take out a mortgage there, it is the equivalent of a bond between.
Yeah, it seems like 20 to 40% down. That's
20 to 40% down, and they're really restricting it so that the mortgage market doesn't get out of control. And there's a real understanding there. It's a conservative approach, but it also is the kind of thing you need to do after you've had a huge mortgage bubble.
I was just going to say, and you don't end up with a glut of foreclosed homes on the market because people can't afford them. Israel, you look to making the point that the U.S. actually spends the most on defense worldwide, but Israel, it seems like, has the best way of taking military spending and actually converting it to products that could be used by the public, that are commercially interesting.
There's a real culture of entrepreneurship in the military and outside of the military, so that all of that Israeli spending that goes into sort of weaponizing things and coming up with new sort of military strategies has an out that comes back into the economy from the private sector. It's something that you have to do in a really focused way. You have to create certain kinds of programs, and you do need a certain kind of leader within your military. The Israelis have the advantage of having a military that consists of their entire country, and so you're really accessing business acumen within the military.
I mean, we have a little shout out to that with GPS, but that's the only thing I can think of, at least off the top of my head.
DARPA has produced lots of things that have helped the American economy, but it's really, again, about refocusing things and trying to find targeted ways to grow the economy with what we're already spending on.
I'm glad you included Singapore, because their unemployment in 2009, I read in the article, 3.3%. Right now, we would kill for that, right?
We would. And, Singapore is an interesting example because they are so dependent on global trade that when the financial crisis hit, a lot of people thought, oh, wow, watch out for Singapore. But because of the way they do targeted job training, because of the fact that they're aware that each job counts. Now, they're in a smaller country and they can focus on that. Their unemployment rate is astonishing.
The government, in some cases, pays companies to keep workers on the payroll so that when revival does come, they are not caught out, and in the meantime, employees still have a paycheck.
It's a classic example of sort of fixing the roof while it's still sunny. When things are good, they make sure that job training is going on at all times. The Germans did this during the crisis, too. They paid companies to keep people on the payrolls. They shifted the burdens a little bit. And so when things responded, when the economy responded, it wasn't a matter of rehiring, it was just upping hours.
Yeah, there's one program called Spur. Companies are paid by the government to train workers, maybe in something that the company doesn't even do. But again, just this idea that it keeps people employed, and then instead of somebody sort of being idle and home and depressed, they're actually learning new skills for a new field.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that every job seeker in America knows. It's easier to get a job when you have a job. It's also easier to ramp up your hours, to transition into a new profession while you're working. The key is keep people in the labor force at all costs, and that's what they've effectively done.
Josh, thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciate it. Always good to see you. It's a pretty good article, Fixing the American Economy, and it is the cover story on Bloomberg Businessweek magazine. You can pick it up on newsstands today. You can see the bright yellow letters there. Try this, and we should.